Hello, everybody. Welcome to AZ Security. Today we have a new topic about network security perimeter, talked about together with Microsoft with Anshu Verma. And my name is Dion Paardenkoper. I'm a cloud architect at IT Impressive. And Anshu, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yep, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Anshu Verma. I'm a product manager in Azure Networking team. I'm overlook products like private link service endpoints, and we have a new offering called Network Security Perimeter, which I'm very excited to talk to you all about today.
Yeah, definitely. And it went short, I think, last month. It into GA, right?
That's right. Yeah, we announced general availability last month for the product.
Cool. And how long was the private preview?
We were in private preview for a few years now, and we announced public preview last Ignite. And this year in August, we went GA with a number of in like hundreds customers validating in private preview. We did see a lot of interaction, and now we're very happy to be in GA and with a lot more capabilities planned down the line.
You make us very curious. But for the listeners who just joined in, what is NSP?
Sure. So NSP stands for Network Security Perimeter. So it is a centralized firewall pass for all your PaaS resources. So in Azure, what you have is you have your workloads, and all the workloads are hosted inside a virtual network. Now, virtual network provides comprehensive controls how you can limit the inbound and outbound access to your workloads and your VMs and your containers, etc. You also get visibility using logs that are provided within the virtual networks. If you just contrast and compare with the past resources which are not inside a virtual network, like think of like all your data assets that you host, like your storage accounts, your SQL, your Cosmos DB. Now, say for instance, you are a customer, Contoso, and you're a large organization who has thousands of storage accounts that you create on Azure.
Mhm.
If you were to secure and say not only storage, say types of data assets that you create on Azure, right? Storage, SQL, etc., and you have thousands of those for for running your entire operations and your business, right?
Mhm.
So when you have to when in order for organizations to enforce security mandates and make sure all the data assets are protected and only accessible from your own organization or valid identities, um, it requires writing custom policies, because if you look at all the networking controls between different past RPs like storage and SQL and Cosmos, there are existing controls. However, there are nuances, and in order to make sure your desired behavior is across the board is uniform, it requires writing custom policies which are not usually straightforward. It's quite complex, and often it does not provide the breadth of coverage that organizations are usually look for. With network security perimeter, it provides you a centralized plane for enforcing all your audit and compliance requirements in a central place.
Mhm.
For instance, creating that secure boundary for all your data assets. So if you have thousands of storage accounts, thousands of SQL accounts, define all your access controls in a central place on network security perimeter, associate all the past resources to it, and all the past resources which are part of this security boundary, they inherit those controls. You also get central visibility. So in order to look at, oh, what who is accessing my storage account, you would have to go into that individual instance and then open the logs and try to
True.
deduce, and then do like cross compare with, oh, did a storage account talk to somebody else, and then open up logs from another destination storage account. So you can see how difficult it would be for an infosec or central team from an organization to put those pieces together. Here with network security perimeter, you get 360 visibility for an entire environment. So you get logging in the central place, so you can see that, oh, all the inbound traffic coming into my environment, thousands of resources going outbound, what's the interaction between them is only within this trusted boundary, and only from the sources and destinations that I have explicitly allowed. Everything else is a deny by default action.
So it's like a firewall, but
Centralized.
then everything is added into one big happy network, so to speak.
Correct.
Oh, that's very nice. And if I'm looking to private endpoints, because in big enterprises, mostly this is being used
Yeah.
to disclose from the public access, right? How do you compare that to private endpoints?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, private endpoints is for private connectivity between your IS, like your virtual networks, the workloads which are inside your inside your virtual networks, to
Mhm.
the PaaS resources. Customers looking for data exfiltration protection, private connectivity, on-premise connectivity. They use private endpoints, and that's what we recommend customers to use.
Mhm.
Now, think of scenarios where you don't really need private connectivity. You need to allow access from, say, your only corp network. Like these are the set of public IP domains that the corp network owns. Does not require private connectivity, but you would want to manage all the public access to your data assets. Sometimes service to service communication as well. So, say for instance, storage talking to another storage account, which is not you need to provide like uniform service to service, or access from storage to another to your authorized storage account. How do you give protection to manage the data exfiltration from that storage account going outwards? So where private endpoints help is securing your path between your workloads to the destination path resource, which is storage. Now,
Mhm.
think about that storage account one moving data or exfiltrating data to another storage account two. In those cases, that's not where you can use private endpoints for securing service to service communication and outbound from a service. That's where you would use NSP. So NSP doesn't replace private endpoints; it complements. So any traffic coming private over private links, we recommend
Yeah.
customers to use, like, privately coming over from your workloads. We recommend customers to use private endpoints,
Mhm.
and we use network security perimeter as a complement to that for making sure that you uniformly enforcing service to service communication or outbound access from that past resource to other destinations.
That was a gap which is not filled in yet, and it feels like this was the missing component, if I may say it like this.
Correct.
And
Yes.
just one question that pops up straight away. A lot of customers do also the hub spoke model, which basically centralizes all their network connectivity into one or more subscriptions at the top, and then workload specifics as a spoke beneath it. How does NSP fits there in this picture?
Yeah, similar to how you would have you would do in a virtual network as well. Any architecture, any network isolation boundary that the customers would want to create, may it be hub and spoke, mesh, or one-to-one connectivity, those could be defined by network security parameters. So think of it as what virtual network does for your IaaS, your
Mhm.
workload, VMs. Similarly, you can define network security parameter for your past resources. It could be, say, you have a centralized, like a hub network security parameter, where it has all your, say, storage accounts, where you are keeping all the query data that you would what all the sub applications would want to access. So that can be in like a hub network security parameter, and then you could be more isolation boundary segmentation as need be, based on how customers would want to create, how would want to isolate, say, their dev environments, their test environments, their non-prod environments. So those can again be in their own dedicated network security parameters. We do have a capability which will come in preview. It's
Okay.
called cross parameter, which will help. It's something very similar to VNet peering, where you can peer to virtual networks together. Similar to that, cross parameter will help customers to link to network security parameters together to get the desired topology, like hub and spoke or whichever is desired.
That looks promising.
Yeah, I can. What I can do is we can quickly have a look at an overview.
Yeah,
Let me know if you're able to see it.
there it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So network security parameter, just in a nutshell, to recap what we had discussed, it provides an isolation boundary for the past resources, completely complements private endpoints and the private traffic coming in. So it allows you to define all your access controls in a centralized place. So I have all my past resources and instances inside a network security perimeter boundary, and it supports something called as access rules. So you can define who all are allowed to access on the inbound side, and also who all are allowed to access to go the traffic to go on the outbound connectivity. So here you would see in the inbound, all the private endpoint traffic is allowed by default. There is no explicit access rules that is required for allowing private traffic. So NS network security perimeter always allows private traffic that is coming in.
Okay.
Um, it allows you can define your site, your corpnet cider ranges, prefixes, or IPs that you would want access to come that authorized sources to have access to your to the resource inside a perimeter boundary. So
Okay.
it gives cider rules. We'll also have something called a cross parameter coming in very soon, so you can define, oh, this parameter should have access to my other parameter. And we also support something called a subscription, so you can define like this subscription resources in the subscription are allowed to have access. Anything else which is not explicitly is granted access or is a part of an access rule is a denied operation. So if an access is coming from an unauthorized IP address and tries to access a storage account, the access will get denied, and you would also see a log entry generated saying, "Oh, this act there was an access attempted, and this was denied due to NSP controls." Also, similarly, on the outbound, anything, all the authorized destinations will be allowed with the matching and access rule. Everything else will be a default deny. All the resources which are part of the perimeter, say for instance, I have 10 storage accounts, 10 SQL accounts, and I've added them in the same perimeter boundary, they will be able to talk to each other. There is no additional configuration that is required. It kind of, if there is like copy from data to data from SQL account to the SQL to storage account to a SQL account in the perimeter, it will be allowed without having any explicit networking or any explicit rules or configuration that you would need to set up. All you have to do is like have them in the same isolation boundary, and they will be allowed connectivity over Azure Private Network.
And
So
and are there specific limitations nowadays yet available, maybe gone by the future?
yeah, limitations in terms of resources that are supported. So we announced we have limited resources that past resources that are supported in preview mode, and also GA. And then more and more Azure PaaS resources are planned to be onboarded onto NSP. So in some time you would see the coverage expanding,
Mhm.
but the limitation is about around how many what kind of resource types you could add to the perimeter today. And in that interim, while you cannot add all the different types of resources, the access could still be granted using the inbound and outbound access rules if they cannot be added in the perimeter boundary today.
Okay, okay, that's good to know. Cool.
Yeah. And then yeah, I would recommend like have a look at our public documentation. There are some limitations listed around limits, hard limits or soft limits, like how you can think about creating those isolation like network security parameter. What were the considerations that you should look into? So those will be very helpful as well.
Okay. I will add the link later below this video. So that's good to know. Cool.
Yeah. If you're good now, I would like to show you a quick demo of how a network security perimeter looks like. So on Azure, what you can do, you can search for network security perimeter to see it as a top level resource. And I have my environment created already. So I'm going to show you one of the network security perimeters that I have already set up. This is my network security perimeter. I have within the network security perimeter, you would see it has something called as profiles. So profiles are nothing but collection of access rules. This is where you define all your controls. Like, okay, this is what do you want to allow in this profile on the inbound side. What do you want to allow for all the resources on the outbound side? So it's a collection of all the access rules and that you could add within a profile.
Mhm.
And in addition to that, this you could add path resources to it. Say, for instance, you would want in the same perimeter, you would want set of resources to be allowed from certain conditions versus another set of resource to have certain different conditions to be allowed access from. So you would use profiles for that purpose.
Okay.
I have two profiles here, and in one of the profiles, I have around 10 some resources added. You would see these resources are in different configuration. Some of them will say enforce mode versus in transition mode. So transition mode means like when you add a past resource into a perimeter, initially it's a default mode is transition mode. That means anything the traffic will be allowed based on what is the configuration on that resource. So let's look at this event hub. I have an event hub instance here. I would want to see what is the configuration on this event hub. So on event hub, the networking configuration which is configured is enabled. Enabled, which means like allowed from everyone over the internet. Similarly, I have that means any traffic coming to event hub will be allowed basically everything is allowed because it's set to open to public access, right?
Hmm.
Compare this. Let's compare with SQL. SQL has a public access configuration as disabled, which means the inbound access is disabled. However, outbound there is not much control because this property only helps with the inbound access controls. Now, I want all the 10 resources to strictly allow traffic based on what I have configured on my perimeter, and they should not they should and not by individual resource firewall configuration that they hold. So for that, what we will do is we'll select all and think of like this, and we will move them into enforce mode. Enforcement means when once this is in enforce mode, any configuration, any of the resource level configuration that individual these instances might have, they would be ignored, and it will strictly follow the access. When the traffic comes in, it's going to strictly allow or deny based on what is configured on the network security parameter itself. So it'll take a minute, and and you would start seeing this move into a secured by perimeter, or some of them are already changed and others are changing as well. So if I again go back and look at what is say this SQL account had like public network access disabled. If you remember, we saw this. So if I
Hmm.
look at the public, if I look at the behavior now, it's only going to allow. It's showing the public network is even though you have disabled, but the behavior would be based, it's secured by the perimeter, telling us that it's going to allow traffic only based on network security perimeter. Yeah, so we have refreshed, we have enforced that all these 10 resources must only allow access based on network security perimeter and not by this event hub had like public network access as enabled, which is like open to all, but actually now it's enforced and secured by NSP access itself.
And will the status be changed? I mean, the behavior is changed, what we have seen. Does it also will change in the button you pressed, like it was public access? It's
Mhm.
now it isn't. Will that
Yeah.
change also to it isn't?
That no, that it would not. So here it's showing effective access, where it's showing you that because it's an enforced mode, the behavior is secured by perimeter.
Okay.
So it kind of shows you though your configured value was enabled, but your effective behavior is securing by perimeter. So that's the that's what. And similarly in the networking configuration as well, it shows that it's secured by perimeter and in enforced mode.
And can I go back if I have made a mistake?
Yes. Again, we can change the access modes into back into transition mode. Say for instance, I want to make some changes. I don't want to keep the event hub as is. I can go back to transition mode. So it is per instance level, this control. Like the if there are multiple resources in the same profile, you have the control per instance level to define what's the enforcement that you would want to keep, whether you want them to just in transition mode, the traffic actually matches two things. It first matches whether it has a matching rule on NSP,
Hmm.
and if it doesn't find a match, it then goes and looks into a resource rule. So it has a fallback mechanism. It uses the
Exactly.
resource firewall. So then you would see a log entry generated that this access was either approved by an NSP rule or a resource firewall rule. And once you have transitioned all your access patterns to an NSP rule, that's an indication for you to safely move to enforcement without really disrupting your access to your services. So
Okay.
as the control is at individual instance level. So if you were to like say move some of the resources back and monitor the traffic, and then make sure you make adjustment to the access rules before moving them into enforce mode, that's possible.
So that's probably the reason why if you click on a specific one, the
Hmm.
old value will stay available as you mentioned. Although
Yes,
it's in enforce mode, you can always see what it was.
that is
So you
right.
have a
That's
sort of
yeah.
backtrack situation, like, oh, this was the old fashioned way, and if you want to change it, you can select it and then do your magic and then force it to enforced mode. So,
Correct. When you're ready, so we ask our customers to like have safe deployment practices and make sure if you use the logging and all the visibility is available. So I want to show you the logs as well. Within NSP, there's something called as Azure Monitor logs. So I
yeah.
have so when we run this, you would see all the log entries generated. any traffic pattern within the perimeter, inside, outside to inside, or inside to outside of this perimeter boundary will get recorded. So here I'm seeing this append block operation happening. This is an intra-perimeter kind of an operation. So we can also actually look at any of the inbound allowed access, all the public traffic, say NSP allowed. So there are different categories that we have. One of
Okay.
which is NSP public inbound perimeter rules allowed, which means this access was approved because of an inbound access rule, which was there on the perimeter. So let's see. Okay, let me expand this a little bit more, and we can have it over. Okay. Yeah. So you would. So here I have an operation showing me that there was a list blobs operation happening, and it was allowed because of matching inbound access rule. Similarly, if you want to see, okay, now did NSP deny any of my traffic? Right. This
Mhm.
is which is critical because maybe your valid traffic got denied somehow, and you would want to see that. So there's also another category which is like inbound perimeter rules denied that you could run to query the same. Okay, yeah. So there was a deny operation also that happened. There were there were few denials, so that means there was access coming from this source IP, and since we don't have any matching rule, NSP denied that access going to the resource, and that was attempted to event hubs. So it was trying to access some this IP was trying to access event hubs instance, and the operation was denied in the lack of because of the lack of a access rule.
And is it also possible that I have resources in different kind of subscriptions? It doesn't matter. It's just like adding the resources.
Yeah. So we support cross subscription. Say, for instance, I would want to add more resources to my NSP, and we can do in the same pro. You can add to the same profile. You can add to different profiles. So you would see we support cross subscription. So I'm here on a resource picker. It's going to list resources. You see all the resource groups, different subscriptions that I'm part of that I have access to. I can add resources from that as well.
That's very awesome. That is something that is very new. That will going to help at least. Cool.
Even region, like you can add resources across regions and cross subscriptions.
Regions as well. Okay.
We
That's
do recommend though, like having be in the same region, but it's supported.
cool. Oh, I think of a lot of new use cases coming up, but nice. Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. It's very straightforward, so to speak, basically, and very nice. Yeah, to have this functionality, basically. Can't wait for the next things that will come up. As you mentioned, the cross perimeter. Cool, cool. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, please do have give it a try, and we're very excited as well to release a lot more capabilities soon. Best in terms of best practices, for always follow safety deployment practices. Make sure that you're reviewing all the logs. You start with some of the test environments, and then familiarize yourself with all the limitations, maybe scale limitations, recommended practices we also have in our public documentation, and then plan for migration. So yeah, always utilize the logging capabilities to get the right visibility and safely move the resources into enforce mode. Based on after making sure that you have right access rules added, covering all the access that would be desired for your environment. And yeah, and it's easy to change back as well. It's all configuration
Yeah,
driven.
we have
So
seen it. Yeah.
yeah, so you do have the controls with you to make the right adjustments. So yeah, we'll definitely look for more feedback and give it a try.
Cool. And if I just want, I just heard it, and I want to getting started. What is the best way to get started?
You can get started with we are already GA, so go to Azure portal. You can you we have also documentation available. I would say just play around with it. You try creating an NSP. So there's no cost associated with creating a network security perimeter, so you can
Oh,
give it a try. and see how it works out for your environment.
All right. Well, I think that's a good homework for us at home, or if you're just joining in. Um, Anshu, I want to thank you for your time, also for the great explanation and for the beautiful demo. I think this is very helping in a lot of use cases nowadays, which you have try to protect your PaaS solutions. Um, yeah, thanks again, and hopefully I can reach out another time if there is a beautiful security update on the network as well.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. And it was very nice me talking to you.
You're welcome, and for everybody at home, thank you for listening, also for joining in, and till next time, take care.